Hey guys, I'm Chris.
I'm Jordan. We are not Lex and Josh.
Not usually, though we do play them on TV apparently.
That's right.
So that's kind of good. So yeah, welcome to the show. It's been a while since we've done a PowerShell webcast.
We have not done PowerShell. I do miss the intro of you typing PowerShell the world.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that was epic, and I need to go play that to myself. But yeah.
Right, so we're diving into error handling, which is basically it's a practice to help your scripts, to prevent your scripts from breaking things when they run unexpectedly.
We never do that.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and dive on in.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So I guess before diving into just error handling, what probably most of you are doing is float control, which is like if-then or for each. Is basically things that say, based on the result, perform a certain thing, which is kind of a precursor into error handling.
sure. I mean, okay. So let's take a step back. I mean, for those of you who, I mean, we probably have an audience that's probably varied in skill for PowerShell. So what are we talking about when we say error handling?
So error handling is basically where you capture unexpected results, and from there you can do various actions, whether terminate the script or just alert people that an error has happened.
Cool.
So basically, if you have data you can't trust and you don't want it to go through and be implemented across your systems, this will catch that and it'll let you know instead of actually incorrectly applying settings.
That we've never done that, and we'll never do that again, right? Let's keep that to a minimum, please. So yeah, let's talk about. You were mentioning briefly before I jumped in a little bit with flow control.
Yeah, flow control. So a lot of what you'll see in early scripts is kind of if-then. So basically, if the result of whatever you're running is a certain action, then perform an action, where you can have multiple then. So you are looking for various actions. It's just basically a way to where you're not 100% what the result's going to be, to then push forward on and I guess react to whatever's there and have a final catch-all for the data you want's not there, I guess.
Cool. Let's show some examples. Let's do what we're talking about.
So that's one that I actually do not have an example for, but we do have the other one is do while, which is another version. Is basically while if certain action is running, perform a certain action.
Okay.
So on this do while, we have where if we have in there that we've reset a computer somewhere in the script, this one in here, it basically pings the computer, and if it comes back as false, it will go through and it'll keep pinging until it comes back as true.
That seems trivial.
Yep. So it's just a nice way. So instead of having to run something and then guess and run the next part of it, it will sit there and keep checking.
Okay.
Until it's ready to go, so you can just run it in one go.
Okay, let's see it.
See that one? So we're going to ping Rick, and this one actually will come back right away. Oh. Just because I believe Rick is running.
We hope.
Yeah, if not, then we're going to have a long wait.
Or we're going to have to go catch him.
That's a good point where we don't have a timeout, so it will keep pinging forever. Oh, I thought...
I don't know if there's a computer called Rick.
Oh, well,
there might not be. There's
Rick
like
Sanchez -1.
Yeah, and like Tiny Rick and then Pickle Rick and
Drunk Rick, but you just picked Rick.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a thing.
Well,
remember that discussion about testing in production? Yeah, we're doing it. Yeah.
Right. And so in this case, where I don't have a timeout of any time, it will do this forever because it will never come back as true.
Oh my goodness.
So if we go to inventory, let's
pick someone.
We'll change it to Beth.
Beth's a good one. Yes, for those of you following along at home, use computers that you actually have in your environment.
I'm a professional.
Good.
Right.
So what's going on here?
So right now it's currently connecting to ping. It's waiting for an echo reply. So I thought we saw that Beth was on, so hopefully we get a response here shortly.
Cool. Well, that's so while ping succeeded equals true, we're going to keep on doing that.
Oh, I do have that backwards, don't I?
Yes, he does.
So I have it so where it is absolutely responding. So $false is where it would be offline.
Yep.
My goodness. I'm off to a great start, guys.
This is a good time. We like to give each other a little bit of push and shove. I mean, there's a lot of us here who do PowerShell, and it's a good time.
All right, so this time we're actually put it to false. It right away exit out of the loop.
Jordan is visibly sweating.
I have on the third attempt got what I was looking for.
Third time's the charm, apparently, in PowerShell.
Well, at least I don't have a blog about to come out where I claim to never make a mistake in PowerShell.
Oh, wait, I think he does.
That would be humiliating.
So I'm going to branch off that for a sec. All the stuff we're talking about today, just kind of an intro to error handling, exception handling. This is going to be in a little blog that Jordan's publishing, I think, this afternoon.
Yeah, hopefully soon. It'll be
Good.
We will add it to the bonus content once it's out there that goes over a lot of what we're discussing.
Fantastic. Cool. Well, let's continue.
All right. So I guess outside of once you pass the flow control, we get to actual error handling, which is, I guess, an exception is basically an error that your PowerShell or instance is not sure how to handle.
Okay.
And so this is basically capturing them and learn how to run them. The most common is try catch,
Okay.
or try catch finally, which we have here. I have a file of all the cool people.
So before we explain this, let's explain what we're talking about when we say try catch, because many of you may have heard try catch or try catch finally or try catch block or try catch, whatever. I mean, depending upon the experience you have with different languages, you might be familiar with this. So what do we mean when we say try catch?
So try is basically going to try the command you put in there, and if there is a terminating exception, it will go down to the catch block where you handle that you do whatever you want to the results from there. In the case of the example that we have, we're just taking the exception as is and putting it out to a file.
Okay, so a terminating exception. So we've mentioned terminating exception. There are also something else.
Oh yes, there's non-terminating exceptions. So
What's the difference between them?
So a terminating exception is something that will kill the instance that you're running. It could be, as simple as someone reboot the machine is a terminating, or if you mistype a command would be terminating. Most of the commands that you run, if they run into an error, would be a non-terminating, any of the functions.
So basically you're saying if anything explodes
Yes.
when you do it in PowerShell, that's a terminating?
Yeah, so basically if it's going to kill what you're running and send it to the beginning, that would be terminating. Non-terminating is just, it will keep running, but it will document the error in the error log that it has.
Okay.
So an important part of the error handling where it has to be terminating, you can't just put the flag error action to stop, and that will make whatever that command is, no matter if it was terminating or not terminating, it will force it to be terminating.
Well, good. And that's a key part of this, because when you're using the try catch syntax here, what you're trying to say, you're attempting to do a command that may blow up. It might blow up something in PowerShell, which might stop your script from continuing on. By putting it in this try block, it's saying, try this command, and if something blows up, in other words, this terminating exception that we have, we're going to catch the exception. And that syntax, I think it comes from, when an exception happens, the terminology that they use is throwing an exception. So when an exception is thrown, you got to catch it, right?
Absolutely.
Or something.
Yeah. All right. So in this case, we're grabbing an updated list of all the cool people.
Oh.
So we're using the $POW, which is just the current directory you're running in. It's just a shorthand for that.
Okay.
So right now we're going to say Chris found out that he is not one of the cool people. So he went in
That's
and
not possible.
renamed the file.
Let's see the list.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened here?
So what happened basically is it went through and didn't find the list, so it did catch, but it's taking the exception and putting it into an out file.
So from here, how do we know the exception happened?
On this one, I did not print it.
Okay.
So, but just the fact that there is the out file chrisdidit.log where it's cannot find path.
Oh, we can't find the cool people because I probably went ahead beforehand and deleted it because I'm not a cool person.
Apparently, it's a very exclusive list.
Who's on this list?
First, we'll go back to the original name.
Okay. So what are we doing here?
We're just opening up the list so we can see who is in fact cool. It looks like me, Colby, and Steve.
Oh, well,
like
fantastic.
I said, I didn't specify which Steve. I'll let them decide for themselves.
They'll fight it out in Mortal Kombat.
All right, so for that one, where delete, but we have a different problem where instead of just deleting it, you went through and you added your name to the list because we don't have security because
we don't believe in security.
Alex isn't on the cool people list. He can't tell me what to do.
Alex is gonna bust in here.
That's right. With like the police siren comes in. Okay, you're
Just
coming
heard
out
Chris
of
say
here.
we don't have security.
Just kidding. We have extensive logs and webcasts on securing credentials, so we do care.
Yes. Yep. All right. So in this case, instead of just having the try catch, we're going to do try finally. So finally is what we'll run no matter what. So if you try and catch an error, if you run finally, it's basically used for cleanup. So if you have an open process or a database connection, this is where in finally, even if it errors out, you can go through and clean up so you're not leaving behind remnants of right?
Oh, okay.
Things that can gum up your system.
So let me see if let me sum this up. See if my tiny little dinosaur brain here can catch up. So we try something that might potentially break.
Yep.
If it does break, the catch block does something with that error, that exception that pops up.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And the finally will run regardless of whether an error happens or not.
Yep.
Cool. That sounds like a great thing to do. You should do it.
Yep. I guess one thing we'd go over within the catch is we go over break or continue.
Okay?
So if you put break in something, it's going to break out of that iteration. And if it is a terminated error, it will completely exit. Where continue will just move on to the next iteration.
Oh, okay. So what you're saying is if, do you mind?
Absolutely.
I'm going to type on the computer. So I'm going to comment out this line. For those of you who don't know how to, just use the $sign, not $sign. Wow, I'm good with words. That's the
Use the hashtag.
pound sign. No. Hashtag break. If I pull this out and start doing other things down here, like, write, output, do all the things, this will run even if an exception occurs.
Without the break, yes, where the catch has basically consumed the terminated exception.
Okay. Well, what happened if I did this?
Then it will never get to the right output as it goes back and breaks out of the
Run it.
script.
Bam! It does still do it. Oh my gosh! Twist!
Oh, because its break is regular and we did not rethrow the terminating exception.
Exactly. I just broke out of that little construct. So, that was my way of throwing a twist at you.
He
For those of
trapped
you, I did. I trapped that particular thing. Let's throw that. Anyway,
That's why you were the PowerShell god and I am Jordan.
I
guess
kind of.
caught you would be the more.
This is that's apt. Yeah. No. This is. I kind of put him on the spot here. So.
Yep. Well, so the other option is if you put in throw, it will rethrow the last error that you had, in this case, where the file didn't exist.
So what happens?
Well, in this one, because the file now exists, it will be just fine. It'll never catch.
Oh, let's just rename it. Put like Cool People 1,
Right.
and let's run it.
Right.
Kerplosions.
So that one rethrows the error. If you have a specific, like if you know that the file is missing and you don't want to dig through what's in there, you can just put throw and then a message, and it will replace the error with whatever you put in there.
Yeah. So the throw command that will generate a terminating error. Cool. So some of this that we have, all these scripts, I'm not sure if we have them up there yet because we were frantically trying to possibly drink whiskey before the show started.
We will add those to the bonus content after the show is over.
Exactly. We'll have these probably as a zip file or something, so you can go reference them after the fact. So cool. Anyway.
All right. So I guess with try finally, we're skipping over the catch block. So instead of catch, basically, if it finds an error, it's going to still terminate, and then it'll go down and I'll do the finally, which is the cleanup.
So okay, let's back up a little bit because I'm, again, small dinosaur brain here. You can do this without a catch block?
Yes.
Okay, so what happens?
So without a catch block, it would because it is a terminating error, it will still exit. But because you have the finally block, which if you don't have a catch, the finally is mandatory, it will still go through and run your cleanup.
Oh, cool.
We're going to go in there and you've added your name.
Oh, I've added my name, yes, of
Yes.
course. I planned that. I'm Devious Mastermind Chris.
Very easy. So what this is going to do, it's going to open the file as a file reader, and it's basically going to read each line to see if Chris has been added.
Okay?
You know how I know he didn't add it? Because he didn't use it PowerShell to append.
That's exactly it. It wasn't done truly PowerShell-y. Full.
So you come in here, it goes through, it actually finds Chris, and so it throws Chris has tampered with the file. It's down the bottom.
Look at that. That is really hard to see over the PowerShell. That is fancy. Cool. Yeah, so that I like actually seeing my name in PowerShell because that makes me just so happy. Look at that. Oh, Chris has tampered with the file. I'm excited because PowerShell and Chris, yeah, synonymous.
All right, so, and in this case where we had a file stream open, if we didn't have a finally block, it would still have that open where it was constantly in the file. So where we put the finally down there, it did close the file. It's not currently being edited.
Oh, good. So, okay, so some use cases I think you guys might get from this. One of my past lives, I started out my career as a database administrator, and because I love PowerShell, it was kind of made sense to, throw them at each other until they played well. And many of the things I had to do is wrap things around a try finally block, try catch finally block, because when I'm attempting to do something with a database and I'm establishing a connection, I want to make sure that I always drop the connection, even if my script finishes or blows up. So that's really important because you don't want to have all these orphaned connections on something or orphaned, whatever's going on here. In the case, we have a file locked, perhaps. We don't want that. Yeah.
Yeah, or if you copy over a file temporarily, you want to make sure you remove it at the end as well. There's just all kinds of cleanup, so no one knows you've been there.
Right, because we don't subscribe fully to the Lex style of IT, the whole full contact IT. We're kind of more like ninjas in PowerShell or blue berets.
Blue berets.
PowerShell blue berets. Yeah,
That's right.
let's do that.
With all of the physical training that it entails. Right. So one thing about catch lists, you can have multiple catch blocks where you can specify the exact type of error.
Oh, cool, neat.
All right. So in this case, we've moved off of I guess me insulting my boss. We're moved on just kind of with file creation. So we have here with our file, we have the stuff folder, which is locked down, and then building new. So if we run this right now,
Okay.
just basically say access to new is denied.
That's right. That's what you get.
So we have in there where the catch, where is the unauthorized access exception.
How do you know that was the one that I went to?
So all of them have them, but the get member. So in the bottom where we have the $_ exception, which pulls it up, you can just do get member or GM for the shortcut. And then rerun that, and right across the top it will give you the type name, and that is the exception.
Oh, fantastic. So, key point here, like if we have a little box that says, note, please, pro tip here, when you're doing something from the console, you're running a command, right? And an exception is thrown, you get all that scary red that pops up, or I think in my case, I think it's green because red is scary. When you do that, try capturing that. Oh wait, it's automatically captured. So can we show them the $error variable here? Yeah. Just because I want to point out something here. Because this, every time you encounter an error, an exception, it stores it in this array. So every error you've had in this session of PowerShell will be stored here unless you clear it. And it adds to the index from the 0. So every time you get a new error, it's going to be at the 0 index or the starting index of this particular array. So if you want to see the most recent one, you can do $error square bracket 0. Can we try that?
Absolutely.
Just to give an example here. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because you can actually find out exactly what exception is being thrown for a particular error. Yep. Because if you are investigating, you're writing a script, you're saying, let's do get content this file that may or may not exist, or I may not have a connection to a network share. If you receive an error or an exception, you can then dive into it and say, oh, you know what? I'm going to add some error handling. Wink, wink. Please do this. And then you can actually put this as a specific catch. So in this case, we have the system unauthorized access exception that we were catching, but you could actually change that to whatever is your specific exception that is happening. So,
all right. So in the same example, we just remove the new where we want to build stuff,
sure,
which does already exist. We get a new exception basically of item specified name exists. Okay. So you can see it pass over the first catch and moves on to the catch that you specify.
Good.
Where I don't have a third catch, where it kind of catch all, at this point it would throw a whole new error if it was not related to any of these.
So how would we catch that? So is there a way to catch it without explicitly specifying the exception type?
Yes, if you don't put an exception type next to the catch, like we have right there.
So let's add one. How would you add a catch-all if you don't know the exception?
You could just put down there.
Because this is important, especially when you want to catch everything because you don't know all the things, I guess. Yeah, deep. But unnecessarily deep.
Philosophical PowerShell.
Yeah, we should do the philosophical PowerShell hour with Chris.
Yeah, so just put in there a catch with nothing after it that does the same thing, and so this way it will still tell you what the exception was if it wasn't one of those, but it won't blow up on you today.
Capitalization, we like to keep it standard. Windows, we all know that it's not really case sensitive usually. Asterisk, C subnote for actually when it is. Yeah, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, there's some commands and programs out there that actually for some reason decide to be case sensitive. So anyway, be aware.
All right, so that's for most of the, what if they're calling commands within commands? This is something that you're a bit more familiar with.
Yeah, I want to talk about this. So this is kind of important for those of you who like to pull out what you're doing. So you have this big giant script, but then you want to take individual snippets and say, oh, I want to do this one thing. Okay, let's make a function. I want to do this other thing. Let's make another function. And then I'll call that function from the other function from the other function from, the wherever. And so at this point, it's important to talk about the call stack. And so with this, I'm going to resize it just a tiny bit, see if I can get stuff on the screen. So I have 3 functions, really simple functions that I threw up here. We have the top, the middle, and the bottom. And what I'm trying to show here is just when you call a function or when you start a script, when you even start PowerShell, there's what's known as the call stack, because you're calling something on top of the other thing. In this case, when I run this script, because it is saved, that'll be the bottom of the call stack, because that's what's called first. Any function within there that gets run gets put on top of that stack. Anything within there gets put on top of that stack. All the way up to, I guess in this case, turtles all the way up, maybe? I don't know. Let's get that reference.
I like it.
So what I'm doing here is I'm starting with function bottom, which what's going to happen. In fact, let's actually remove what I've done here just to give an indication of what's going on. Because we have bottom function, which calls middle function which calls top function. So we got this. So bottom, this in turn calls middle, which in turn calls top, which in turn calls all that up there. Clear as mud? Yeah? Okay. The point I'm making is I can run this command. In fact, let's run this script, and we're going to see explosions because it's going to throw the error, the planet's imploding, because the planet is imploding. Anybody gets that reference gets 5 bonus points. So we'll see here. I'll expand this up a little bit. We'll get the first part, which is the I am on top of the stack. Let's make an exception, which we kind of got up here. But next, that throw, if you remember, that's throwing a terminating error, which says explode the things. And so I thought it was wonderful to give the reference from Fry in Futurama for the planet's exploding. So that's why it's exploding there. And I can wrap this error handling that we've been talking about around this. So I can do something like, oh, let's try, this thing, and then we'll catch stuff, because I'm a master of words. And what will happen is this will just basically take that exception. In fact, let's actually do stuff, and then we'll do what Jordan did in the other one, which was, what was it, exception? Yep. And so when I run this, it's going to run, let me see the whole thing here. It is going to run bottom, which is going to run middle, which is going to run top, which is going to run into this script again, and then it's going to throw the exception, planet script loading, but then I'm going to catch that exception. So let's see what happens. I'll expand this out again, and run. Okay, so we see I'm on top of the stack. Let's make an exception. Stuff. The planet's kerploding, the exception that we threw, that we caught right here. And then, oh no, which happened afterwards. So you can see that it still was able to continue onward. Because if it was a terminating error, it would explode and nothing else would continue to run, which we saw earlier.
So basically where you did put out the exception, but you didn't rethrow the error that you caught, it can continue. If you would put throw in there, it would still throw the exception, but then oh no would not run.
Right, and so kind of to a little bit elaborate further on that, I suppose, I'm going to take this entire syntax here. I'm just going to cut it out of here. We're still going to, we're still going to throw the exception in the top function. In other words, the top of the stack that we were talking about. But I'm actually going to do the try catch loop at the bottom, see what happens. What do you think is going to happen?
I think at the throw it will, I guess if you, in the catch block, don't have it terminate, it'll run oh no, and then it will go back to the bottom. But if you do make the catch block terminating, it'll probably exit out with the error.
Stuff, I think that's what I said before. And then we'll do exception. I'm spelling things correctly. I'm checking. Please call out from the audience in the home. I'll hear you, I promise. Just call it in one voice if I'm messing up. And then, other stuff that happens after. I'm very clever with my words, I know. So what we're doing here is we're going to run bottom, and within that bottom function, it's going to try calling middle. So remember, that exception happens, that we're doing that terminating error from the we're getting that exception from that throw within the top of the stack. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to set a breakpoint just so we can kind of walk along and see what's happening, because I want to show you a cool command in PowerShell you might not know exists. So let's run this. It's going to be in debug mode now because I added a breakpoint. And what we can do is we can actually step into the functions and step in and keep on going and kind of follow along as it's going on. Now the cool little function that I'm going to, cool little commandlet that I'm going to show you is called, I think, get ps call stack. Yeah. Now when I run this, it's going to show that on this side, where I'm kind of underlining with a circle or oval, the name of the file, call stack example, because that's the bottom of the stack that I was talking about. So if I keep continuing to step into, I'm going to hit F11, but if you want to look in the debug menu, you can see that it's step into, but just because it's easier to hit the keyboard. F11, here we go. We're going to go into the bottom, and we're stepping into this. Now we're getting to the point where we're calling middle. Okay, we're calling middle. We're jumping to middle. hit F11 again. Okay, we're gonna jump in the top. Okay, here we go. I know this. It seems like I'm on like a tour. Like,
Yeah.
okay, and now we're moving on and take a look at this cool hat from some famous guy. But I'm on top of the stack. Let's make exception. Keep on going and throw. Now I'm gonna hit F11 and see what happens. It didn't go to oh no. It went back up to the bottom.
Where you captured and said stuff, right?
Exactly, because at the top of the stack, we're basically saying, oh no, an exception happened. Can you handle me? No, I can't. Okay, keep going down the stack until I can find something that can handle me. So, okay, top, go away. Okay, middle, go away. And then suddenly we're at the bottom of the stack and we find something that was able to catch that. In this case, we're just doing that generic catch with no specified exception. And so now it's going to go the way we expected. Oh, stuff, the planet's kerploding, and other stuff that happens after, and voila, magic. So
it's important that I guess no, if you don't have error handling in each one of these, which best practice would be to have it in there. If you don't have it anywhere, it will just completely X out of all of them, and you're going to have a very hard time finding where it broke.
yeah. And be aware that if you're doing nesting or calling different modules, or you have a bunch of scripts saved that you're just dynamically calling into different scripts that call other scripts, that call Jordan's script, that call my script, and all this fun stuff, if an exception happens, where do you know where it happens, or do you care where it happens? If you don't, just realize that somewhere up the chain you have to catch it, because if you don't, and I say up the chain, I actually mean down the stack, so it's kind of an inverse of what I mean here. But as it goes down the stack, trying to find something to handle this exception, if it goes all the way to the bottom and nothing is handling it, that's when explosions happen. And that's when the script just says, I'm done. I'm throwing my hands in the air. What you did was bad. You should feel bad and explode. Like, that's pretty much what I think it happens.
I think it also throws in a good luck finding it.
So, yeah.
All right, so we have a couple questions.
Yeah, sure.
Dear PowerShell gurus, what's the best way to handle user interaction? For example, can I deploy an interactive PowerShell script to prompt the user to answer yes or no and use the returned response later in my deployment? Thanks, Christopher C.
That's a good question. Hi, Christopher. I like the name.
Yeah. All right, so I guess in this they're basically popping up a yes or no box for the user, and then if they wants to get the result of yes or no.
Or maybe in this case, he's actually talking about read prompt.
Okay.
Let's ask. I mean, Colby, have you done anything like this before in the past?
Nothing specifically with PDQ deploy, but I imagine you could write like a little GUI with a couple buttons on it, and then have it throw like an exit code.
Yeah.
So that it would make the deployment fail.
Yep. And as long as you're, I mean, if you need it to run in the context of the user to pop up, make sure to run it as deploy user interactive, and you shouldn't have a problem.
I suppose if it's something where you don't know when the user is going to respond to it, that's where you could use the dual while loop. So basically, it checks for the response from them hitting yes or no, and then once it gets it based on the yes or no, you can move from there.
Or even a for loop if you don't care about time and just want to say, and I've waited the appropriate 12 seconds, he's not responding, move on. Full contact IT. So yeah, it's a great question though. If you run any problems though, feel free to hit up our solutions team. I mean, they're really good with PowerShell. Or if they just are angry at me for saying hit up the solutions team, they'll probably hit me up with pitchforks and knives. But yeah, go please.
Dear Chris and Jordan, what is the best way to remove built-in Windows 10 apps for all users with PowerShell? I have read a bit about it and am still having issues getting them to remove for all users. Maybe a PowerShell tool or package in PDQ that runs on computers when they first join inventory? Thanks, Slobbery B.
I actually have a blog just on this where it basically uses our tool to remove. It's the PowerShell command is remove AppX packages. Just the problem with that is those are user-based, not computer-based. So it's something you'd have to, if you build a package with the remove AppX, you just want to basically run it against the logged on user. Or you could have a group policy that will run every time someone logs in, and it will remove it as they go.
Yep.
But if you run just as you against the computer, it will only remove those for your profile.
Right, and there's also another command with that. I think it's called get AppX provisioned package. Yes. Which is the template essentially for the machine. So, for those of you who use DISM and said, hey, this is what I want for the machine, get this ready and set up, that's what it's doing here. So all these different built-in apps are provisioned so that new users, when they're created, they get those applications added.
Just beware, if you run just a blank remove, you will also take off the calculator, and there are some things that are useful, so you want to make an exceptions list.
Yeah, and one kind of caveat or something to keep in mind that is in his blog, I believe, if you go check it out, is I believe the Git Apex packages has an all users parameter to get all the packages and list them for all users, but trying to pipe that into remove Apex package, that one, at least back when we did this back in version 5, maybe it's changed since 5.1, I haven't checked. That one at the time did not have an all users parameter, and I even dove into what it's actually calling in .NET to see that it didn't support that at the time. So
Yeah, so there will be no errors on that. So if you do the all users flag on the Git, it will find every application for all users, but then the remove, it will remove for only the current user.
Yeah, the one that's running the PowerShell, whatever context that is.
So it's kind of, I think they made it difficult on purpose, but there are a few things in the blog that you can, and if you don't want to be constantly running it, group policy, you can set a logon script to where as they log in, it takes off what you don't want.
Okay, cool. What else we got?
Oh, great PowerShell twins. Any recommendations on books to gain more PowerShell knowledge? Currently enrolled in the University of Google. Smiley face. Brian G.
University of Google, I like this.
Yeah. So, Don Jones, Learn PowerShell in a Month of Lunches. I've never heard of anyone that has read the book that didn't take away a lot of knowledge from it. That's a good book.
It is, and there's also a playlist on YouTube, so you can go watch and read along and do them both at the same time and kind of listen. Just be aware that the volume changes drastically between episodes when they were recorded, but they're fantastic. There's also I think it was by Bruce Payette, PowerShell in Action. If you want to kind of go off in weird tangents, fantastic learning can happen in this book. PowerShell in Action is a classic. I recommend that one.
Dear Chris and Jordan, I am trying to build a tool in PDQ for renaming computers. At the moment, I found a Spiceworks script that works, but it's annoying. I have to enter my credentials every single time. What do you recommend in terms of renaming computers? Perhaps PDQ Inventory can have a nice right-click change computer name function someday. Thanks, Kyle A.
I see the winking going on there. Maybe Inventory would someday. I know that we've kind of pulled away from that because we can change the name in the database for Inventory, but we kind of shy away from changing things really on the machine from Inventory.
So I think you could build your own tool in Inventory. If you have the PowerShell command, then it would just use the credentials that you have in Inventory when you run it remotely and change it that way.
That's good. That's a good one.
But I don't know how well it would check in back into Inventory after that was done.
Sure, and one other thought on that I do have, and I have a couple blogs on this. I think you and I did a webcast on this about secure string and credentials. So you can store credentials safely. Even if you're migrating them, you can kind of use a AES 256. Anyway, go check out the blogs. You can make it so that you can call credentials from a text file after the fact that you've created them. And anyway, reach out to us, check out our blogs, and we'll get you what you need. So,
all right, well, thanks for tuning in. I'm Jordan.
I'm Chris. See you later.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations, Christopher C. and Brian G., winners of PDQ swag. Just send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. If you have any additional questions, feel free to hit up our support forums. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you here again next week.